Okay, as you look at your very first problem on your Chapter 12 review, notice your directions that tell you construct a frequency distribution for the data set. So you can see you got the games per World Series. You got a 7, you got a 4, you got a 7, a 7, a 6, a 7, a 5, a 6, a 7, a 4, 7, 7, 6, 6, 6, and 5. So as you look at your solution guide right here, you're going to notice that it just kind of reminds you of what a frequency distribution chart looks like. So it says a frequency distribution chart has two columns. The left column is what the data is, and the right column is the frequency of the data. Be sure that the left column goes from the smallest number to the biggest number. So you're going to notice the very first thing that I did, in my left column, I went ahead and labeled that games per World Series. And in my right column, I've got the frequency of it. And then when I looked at my data right here, so as I'm looking at my data on this problem right here, let me go ahead and bring that back up again. I just go ahead and find my smallest number. And the smallest number that is on my data is a 4. And then notice it goes all the way to 7. And so you got a 4, you got a 5, a 6, and a 7. So when you're doing your frequency chart right here, just want to make sure you put those on the one side where you have your games per World Series. You got a 4, which is the smallest number, then 5, and 6, and then 7. And then you're just going to go ahead and count up how many 4s you have, how many 5s you have, how many 6s you have, how many 7s you have, and you're going to write it in this column right here. So if you go back here and you look at your data, just going to count up the number of 4s you have. So you're going to notice that we have a total of 1 4, 2 4s. So in my chart, next to my 4, I'm going to write 2. And then on the next one, I'm going to count up my 5s. So counting up my 5s, so it looks like I've got 1 5, and then I've got 2 5s. So then in my frequency distribution chart, I just go ahead and write the number 2. I go back and now I'm going to count up my 6s. So counting up my 6s, so it looks like I've got 1 6, 2 6, 3 6, 4 6, and 5 6. So now on my frequency distribution chart, right next to my 6s, I'm going to write a 5. I'm going to go ahead and count up my 7s. So go back to my data and counting up the 7s. Looks like I've got 1 7, I've got 2 7s, 3 7s, 4 7s, 5 7s, 6 7s, and 7 7s. So on my frequency distribution chart, right next to my 7s, I'm going to write 7. And so that's what your frequency distribution chart is going to look like, and that is the answer to number 1. Okay, when I get to number 2, we'll look at our review assignment right here. Looking at number 2, it says that I have this data right here. It says draw a stem and leaf plot for the data set. It's got Nobel laureates and it's got their ages. So you've got Myriad, Corrigan, McGuire's 32, then 45, then 74, then 69, then 46, then 54, then 62, then 56, then 53, then 64, then 77, then 43, then 45, 60, 59, 61, 49. And those are all the ages of your Nobel laureates. Well, looking at that, it's kind of hard to determine, their ages and stuff. And so we make a stem and leaf plot. And so to do the stem and leaf plot, I'm just going to go ahead and look at my solution guide, and it just reminds me of what a stem and leaf plot is. So number 2 says a stem and leaf plot organizes data using 2 columns. In the left column is the stem, which is the first digit of the data, and in the second column is the leaf, which is the second digit of the data. So notice right here, I've went ahead and made my 2 columns. So here I've got age of Nobel laureates. So here's my stem, which is going to be the first number of the data, and here's my leaf, which is going to be the second number of the data. So I go back to my data, and I'm just going to notice that, again, just like with my frequency distribution, I'm going to look at the smallest one and then go to the largest. So you're going to notice these numbers range. I've got 3, I've got a 4, I've got a 7, I've got a 6, I've got a 4, I've got a 5, I've got a 6, I've got a 5, I've got a 3, I've got a 6, I've got a 7, I've got a 4, and I've got a 4, a 6, a 5, a 6, and a 1. So now just putting those numbers on the left side, you're going to start with the smallest and go up to the biggest. So to do that, I'm just going to start with the 3. So here's my 3, and then I've got my 4, got my 5, got my 6, and then I've got my 7. So now I'm just going to go ahead and find those numbers that correlate to each one of those. And there's several ways you can do this as you're looking at your data. So as you're looking at your data right here, you're going to notice that. Now I'm going to go ahead and put those numbers next to it. So I notice for my 3s, I've only got 1, I've got a 2 here, and it doesn't look like I have anything else to go with my 3s. So then next to my 3, I'm just going to go ahead and write a 2. Okay, now I look at my 4s, and I'm going to find all the numbers that correlate with that right there. So you can do it however you want. You can do it one number at a time. You can just do it several numbers at a time. So notice this right here. I've got a 4, and there's a 5 there. I've got another number. There's a 6 that goes with it. Got another 4 right here. There's a 3 that goes with it. There's a 5 that goes with it. And then there's a 9 that goes with it. So now notice, I'm just going to go ahead and write those numbers, 5, 6, 3, 5, and 9, next to my 4. So if I look at my stem and leaf plot right here, I'm going to write a 5, a 6, a 3, a 5, and a 9. And those are the numbers that go with 4. So you can see that would be the ages 45, 46, 43, 45, 49. Okay, now I'm going to go look at my 5s. So I go back to my data right here. And I'm going to see the numbers that correlate with my 5 is my first digit. So looking at that right here. So here's a 5 right here. There's a 4 that goes with that 5. And then here's a 6 that goes with it. Here's a 3 that goes with it. And then also, right over here, there's a 9 that goes with it. So I'm just going to go and put those next to my 5. I've got a 4, 6, 3, and 9. Then I just go back here on my chart. I write down a 4, a 6, a 3, and a 9. And so now I know the ages of 54, 56, 53, and 59. Real easy way to organize your data, so it's real easy to see. Let me just go ahead and erase this real quick. Okay, now notice I'm looking at the number 6. So now I'm going to go find the last digit to go with the 6. So I look at my data again. And looking at this right here, I'll just erase the other ones that I just did. So now I just got to find out what goes with the 6. So notice this right here. A 9 goes with that 6. A 2. And then I've got a 4. I've got a 0, and I've got a 1. All that goes with my age of 60. And so then I just go back to my stem and leaf plot, and I'm just going to go ahead and jot that down next to 6. So notice there was a 9, a 2, a 4, a 0, and a 1. Okay, now the last thing I want to look at is my number ages of 70. So now I just got to go back to my data and find what ages correlate to the 70. I'm just looking for those last digits that have a first digit of 7. So I notice there's a 74. And looking through my data, there's a 77. And those are only 2 numbers that go with it. So then I go back to my stem and leaf plot right here, and I write in the 4 and the 7. Now that you've organized the data, it's really easy to see the ages of your Nobel laureates. It's also easiest to see, what age group had the most or had the least Nobel laureates. Okay, now this next problem, number 3. The directions on number 3. Let's take a look at our review real quick here. So on number 3, it says that we have, it says the cost of a flight is related to the length of flight by y equals 0.083x plus 43.4, where x is the distance in miles, y is the cost in dollars. So notice they actually give you the algebra equation right here. And then they go ahead and graph it by plotting some points to show you what the graph looks like. It says using this model, what would be the cost of a flight that travels 525 miles? Round your answer to the nearest dollar. So notice on this problem right here, they're going to give you both the graph and the algebra. You're not expected to know how to do those. It's just going to be given to you. So when it says what would be the cost of flight of 525 miles per hour, basically, I'm just going to use my algebra to solve this one, because it says that x is the distance in miles, y is the cost in dollars. So notice all I have to do is just go ahead and substitute in 525 into my equation, because that is my x value, and then just put it in my calculator and solve it. And so that's what I do, and that's what I point out on the solution guide right here. So it says x is the distance in miles, y is the cost in dollars, 525, so notice I substitute that in right there. So then you just go ahead and take your calculator and type that in. So we got 0.0783, and we're going to take that times 525, and then we're going to add that to 43.4. When I do that, it comes out to be 84.5. It says to round off the nearest dollar, so when I round it off, that comes out to be $85. So you'll notice that was multiple choice. So if you look at your review, that answer would be A, which correlates to 85. Let's take a look at this next one. So notice here's your multiple choice, 85. Okay, now on this next problem, it says find the mean for the data set. So remember, to find a mean, what you have to do is you have to add all the data set together and then divide by that number. So if you look at your solution guide, so here's all my numbers right here. So looking at the solution guide right here on number 4. It says find the mean for the data set. It says find the mean for the data set. To find the mean, you need to add all the data together and then divide by the number of items in the data. And just as a reminder, this is what the symbol for mean is. It's a little X with a bar over it. That means find the mean. And so this right here, the symbol means sum all your x's together and divide by the number there is. So as you look at your data, you're going to notice that I wrote it all down. So I wrote down 72 plus 71 plus 140 plus 156 plus 129 plus 124 plus 46 plus 125 plus 150 plus 78 plus 80 plus 126 plus 107 plus 154 plus 133 plus 92 plus 74. So I'm going to add all those together. And then when I count it up, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 numbers there. I'm going to divide it by 17. So all I got to do is just put that in my calculator, and I add it all together. And I'm not going to take the time to put that in my calculator right now, because I already did that before. And when I add it all together, you should get the number of 1,857. And when you're done doing that, you're going to divide it by the total number, which is 17. And when you take 1,857 divided by 17, you'll get the answer of 109.24. And that would be the mean of the data. Now this next problem right here, on number 5, now we're looking at a frequency table on number 5, and the directions are the same. So remember, the directions carry on over. It says the length of book titles. So you're going to notice that the directions on this one again is find the mean. But now, number of words is 2, frequency was 6. So in other words, this actually happened 12 times, because that's how frequently it happened. The number of words was 3, you multiply that times 2, and that frequency was actually, or that total was 6. And then you take the 4 times the 1, and that actually happened 4 times. And 6 times 1, that actually happened 6 times. So notice with the frequency distribution chart, you got to remember that that tells you how many times it happened. So when I find the mean, I actually got to add these numbers together and then divide by that total right there. So I'm going to add all those numbers together. So notice I'm going to take 12 plus 6 plus 4 plus 6. And notice the frequency with which that happened right there. In other words, this is how many times it happened. When I add these together and I take 6 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1, that's going to be my total. That's going to be my n. That's going to be the total, which is going to be 10. So I'm going to divide that by 10 when I'm done. So now I just got to take 12 plus 6 plus 4 plus 6. And that's going to come out to be 28. I'm going to divide that by 10. I'm going to divide 28 by 10. That comes out to be 2.8. So the mean of that frequency distribution chart is 2.8. So number 6 says find the median for the data set. So remember, to find median, you just have to remember that the median is the middle. So I just go ahead and remind you on your solution guide of all that. To find the median by putting all the numbers in order and then find the middle. If the data items are odd, then there will be one number that is the middle. If the data items are even, then find the two numbers that are in the middle, add them together, and divide by 2 to find the median. So notice I took my data set and I put it in order. So on number 6, when I put it in order, I found that the smallest number was 40. Next biggest was 41, and it went 62, 72, 88, 90, 98, 103, 105, 125, and 147. So notice this one does have a true middle because there's an odd number here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that means that on this side from here to here, I've got a total of 5 items. And on this side from here to here, I've got 5 items. So my median, or my middle, is going to be about right in the middle, which is the answer of 90. Okay, now this next problem, on number 7, the directions say find the mode. So the word mode just means most. So that just means I have to find which number occurs the most. And so I look at it, and it's pretty obvious just by looking at which one occurs the most, because 4 only happened twice, 5 only happened 1 time, 6 happened 3 times, and then when I look at these 7s, well, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 7 happened 5 times, so that's definitely the most. So 7 would be my mode, because it happened the most. The word mode means most. Okay, now on this next one, on number 8, it says we want to go ahead and get my paper turned here. It says find the mid-range. So on number 8, here I've got a set of data, and it wants me to find the mid-range of that data. So remember, mid-range, you're going to take the smallest data value and add the highest data value, then divide by 2. So I got to look at all my data values, and I've got to find the highest or the biggest data value. I've got to find the smallest data value. I'm going to add those together and divide by 2. So looking over my data right here, got 4, 8, 11, 7, 3, 7, 11, 3. Got 1, I've got 5, 3, 3, 4, 6, 4, got 8, 4, 7, 3, 9, 4, and 6. So remember your formula for the mid-range. You're just going to take the smallest number, and we're going to go ahead and add the largest number. And then when I'm done doing all that, I'm going to go ahead and take that, and I'm going to divide it by 2. So I'm going to take this, and when I'm done, I'm going to divide by 2. Just got to look over all my data again and find the smallest number. Well, if you're looking at it correctly, your smallest number up here looks like it's going to be a 1. So I found a 1 right here. That's my smallest number. So I'm going to take 1 plus, as I look over my data right here, the largest number is an 11. There's a couple of 11s there, but you know, it's just the one of them. And when I'm done, I'm going to divide by 2. So I just have to take 1 plus 11, which is 12. I'm going to divide by 2, and that's going to be 6. So 6 is going to be the mid-range of my data.